A $500 million jet, a $500 million oil sale, one country. We're in the era of transactional governance. Here's what you need to know. Qatar is the perfect case study. It's a tiny but extraordinarily wealthy Gulf nation. And under Trump's second term, Qatar has received security commitments. They've benefited from massive economic deals. And they've also secured a role as America's key diplomatic intermediary in the Middle East. Oh, and before I forget, in May 2025, Qatar gifted Trump a $500 million plane, one of the most expensive private planes ever made. It is a flying palace that once served Qatar's royal VIPs. Setting aside the obvious constitutional concerns with a US president accepting any gift from a foreign nation, if we fast forward a few months, you know the US arrests Maduro, takes control of Venezuela's oil industry, and very recently completed the first major sale of Venezuelan oil. Coincidentally, it's also about $500 million worth of oil. Where did that money go? Not to a US Treasury account, not to the Venezuelan authorities. $500 million went to a bank in Qatar, the same Qatar that gave Trump the jet. Officially, Qatar is a neutral territory where Venezuelan oil money can't be seized. It is a practical solution for a complex problem, but neutral is definitely doing some seriously heavy lifting here. And really, this is just the beginning. The US is planning to sell between 30 to 50 million more barrels of Venezuelan oil, which means potentially billions of dollars flowing through Qatari banks. And why does it matter? Well, Qatar will be able to hold and manage hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in oil revenue. They'll get banking fees, investment opportunities, economic leverage. They'll be a middleman in a massive US-Venezuela energy deal. And of course, they gain geopolitical influence over the Latin American energy markets. It's a big deal for Qatar. And really, the Qatar is a great case study of transactional governance. Now, traditional governance, whether domestic or foreign, builds around shared values, long-term strategic interests, institutional partnerships. It's really about trust, slowly developing trust over time. The transactional approach works a little bit differently. Think of it more like a shady Gotham-esque business deal with four defining features. First, the short-term quid pro quo is more important than long-term strategic alignment. What that means is what you have done for me lately matters much more than decades of partnership and activity. And unfortunately, that benefit doesn't always flow to America. It can directly flow to Trump and his family. Pillar number 2, relationships are transactional. Everyone, allies and foe alike, are expected to pay their share, or they're going to be treated as freeloaders. Pillar number 3, the bargaining or the negotiation tends to happen between leaders. And that replaces traditional institutional processes and bureaucratic channels like the State Department, for example. And then the fourth pillar, one that probably most people here will be familiar with, is leverage through disruption. Tariffs, sanctions, withholding aid, threats, public criticism, all tools intended to extract concessions and close deals. As you can probably tell, Trump uses that same approach, transactional governance, domestically. Companies get deregulation or preferential treatment in exchange for public investment and loyalty. States get disaster aid and federal funding, but loyalty factors into the timing and generosity of that disaster aid and federal funding. Media outlets get exclusive access, or they get frozen out completely based on their coverage, i.e. loyalty. I think you see the pattern here. Everything, even disasters, is a deal that can be closed with a carrot or a stick. Under the Trump administration, that's usually a stick. But the Qatar jet Venezuela oil story should be a bigger scandal, but it's simply a window into which we see how Trump operates. Whether you see Trump's approach as efficient deal making or a dangerous departure from traditional norms, when everything is transactional, the line between national interest and personal interest can get very, very blurry. And this is particularly true after the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision that criminally insulates the U.S. president when he or she acts in an official capacity. After that decision, almost everything is fair game for Trump. This is the system that we're watching unfold in real time. And it's clear that one family in particular has benefited from it. I read the fine print, so you don't have to. Remember to like, follow, and drop a note if you want me to cover a specific topic.